now. Do you hear nailing down to a crown with thorns on, sorrow's born, heaven's come down for. Sweat like blood comes down, eclipse the shadow now. The sun is gone and sorrows come where it slithers from. Jesus, I need you now. Free me of love somehow. Oh, remember.
Welcome to the Through the Black Show. Folks, you have tuned in to the YouTube channel hosted by the crazy guy in the neighborhood. Who else has a sign in their yard that says no more dead babies? Am I the crazy guy, or am I the one that's saying, that says we don't want to kill babies? If I'm crazy, you know what? I will stand by that. Guys, welcome to the show tonight. throughtheblack.com is the website. And hey, I am glad to be joined by my good old buddy and my son, Elijah. And yeah, that's the website. And you can go there for all of our stuff, all of our junk, and the links, the resources, the archives, all that stuff is over there. Hey, yeah, and the website, No More Dead Babies. If you want to be crazy like me, you can go to that website and order a free t-shirt. If you just pay for the shipping, we'll send it out to you, and I'll give you some stickers too. We've sent shirts out to over 100 people. It feels good to know that there's other crazy people out there. Yeah. It doesn't make me feel so alone. So, guys, yeah, I'm super stoked, as the youngins would say, to have my son back with me. And I asked him, I got this idea for a show last week, and I asked him if he would do it. He immediately said yes. And he has a unique perspective on this topic. I could say he has a lot of experience with this topic. So I want to hear from him. And a lot of this stuff, I don't know. I haven't heard from him. We haven't talked a lot about these things. And I want to hear from him, because he went from one way, a year ago, to a completely, different life now. He has even brought his own notes tonight, so he's got some things to say too. He want to make sure that he covers. So we're just going to kind of jump right into it. I was scrolling through social media last week, and I saw somebody post something that said something along the lines of, "What do you think about Christians smoking weed?" And I was kind of shocked at the responses of people defending it and talking about using it as a regular part of their Christian life. And I tried to look for this book before we got started tonight, and there's a book. I wanted the book for the title, but it's about Christians and weed. Mm-hmm. And I actually bought the book just actually because of you. Yeah. Because I wanted to read something to learn, how to pray for you and how to reach you. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Elijah, thank you for joining me tonight. Appreciate it. And I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, I want to report on the last Sunday. I got to speak at a local church here, Freedom Ridge, and it was really cool to have you there, and to have listeners, by the way, of Through the Black, friends of Through the Black were there, and my family, my mom was there. It was cool. So I appreciate your support, and as of late, you are one of my biggest supporters. Yeah. So that's cool, but I guess I want to ask, what is it like sitting there when your dad's preaching? And I I guess I preached to you a lot growing up, but
yeah.
now here I am up in, you know, in front of a church. So,
well, it's funny. I really enjoy hearing you speak all the time. And the past couple times that I've heard you spoke, except for one of our trips, like a couple of the trips, besides the Dayton conference.
yeah.
But a lot of the times it's like nobody else is in the room, and my dad's just on stage telling me what I need to hear. So like, not that you're like preaching at me, but I mean, like, I don't know. It's all been really good, and I don't know. This last week you were kind of just like talking about like a hard topic that a lot of people don't want to touch, and that's just when you were saying like they want us to believe that this is for.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm holding 3 fingers.
Right.
And
well, I was using the reference from the book 1984. Yeah.
And trying to say that, you know, boys are girls and girls are boys, or just
Right.
that whole thing. And you know, that's just something that really needs to be talked about sometimes in church. Like nobody is touching certain topics like that, and you know, I think it's definitely good. So
before we jump into the main thing tonight, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I know, you know, there's a lot of listeners that have been listeners for a long time, and they know me, but they don't know my family, or they don't know me from the perspective of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I've had your sister on, I've had your brother on, and now you've been on several times. But what, I guess maybe, is there any kind of inside information that you can give them about me? You know, like what is it like growing up with me as a dad? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, be careful because I don't want to shut this down.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying. Let's keep it. I mean, what can we share here?
We talking like embarrassing stories?
Well, you know, like I said, I got the mute right here, but go ahead. I'll take a chance. This is a little risky.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
You got nothing? Okay.
Yeah.
Something will come to you.
Well, just the only thing I can think of is the one time I was complaining about mowing the lawn.
Okay, this is an okay story. Tell them this story.
Well, I was like, I don't know how old I was, but I was moaning and groaning about
11 years old. Yeah.
11 years old, yeah. Well, I was moaning and groaning about mowing the lawn, and the lawn was like on a hill a little bit.
It was a pretty big hill, dude, but what can I say?
I was just like, man, I don't want to do this right now. And he had a water bottle in his hand, and he just threw like some water on my face. He's like, snap out of it. Like, so
yeah, you should have seen the look on your face when I did that, because you were shocked.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck? Yeah. But it was definitely warranted.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, what can I say? The funny thing is, and you have a young brother, right?
Yeah.
And you know what they say about the last born child?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, folks. It's true. They get off really easy.
Yeah.
This guy took the brunt of it here.
Yeah.
And man, anyway, it's all water under the bridge now.
Yeah.
Literally speaking. So, guys, you could go back in the archives and you can kind of see the story. Elijah has been since July. He has been back home with me now. He's been gone for a really long time. He's kind of bounced around, and sometimes he bounces back here, but we've been praying for him for a very long time, and he came home and turned his whole life around back in July. We're going to talk about that tonight. So anyway, I saw this post on Facebook, and somebody was talking about smoking weed, and I wanted to get your perspective because I watched you from afar for a while, and I feel like the best way to put this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but weed kind of became your God.
Yeah.
I mean, is
Yeah.
that fair to say?
No, yeah.
So-
yeah. I mean, it's hard to say God, but it was definitely something that was taking place of God. And that's something that you don't want to do with absolutely anything but him.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of people say that weed isn't addictive, but it is. It is it can be very addictive. Like, it can just take, I don't know, just the feeling of it you just want to keep doing it, or you gotta like do it all the time, or you got to do it before you eat. You got to do it before you go to the grocery store, drive down the road, and it just becomes habitual. And, yeah. And it's not like a ritual, but you're doing it like a ritual. So you're just
it's
like,
a part of your life.
Yeah.
So what was it like the first time that you used?
Well, so I've never even, I told you this, but I can't remember how old I was, but the first time I did was right down the road at a buddy's house. And like I said, a lot of the things I've done, I did just because I wanted to fit in. I was bullied a lot in school, and I was right down the road at somebody's house, and I tried it there, and I don't even think I really, like, I felt normal. I didn't feel anything, but I honestly, the first real time that I did it, I was at another house, and it honestly just like felt like my whole life was under attack. Like I literally just was spinning, and
So it wasn't a good experience.
No, the first time it was definitely not a good experience at all. It was like super terrifying, honestly. Like I kind of remember like kind of like challenging God in a sense. Like I remember just laying on the couch looking up at the lights and just kind of like asking God if he was real, or I can't remember what I was saying, but I just challenged him, and I felt like the lights were flickering on and off at that point, and I was like, holy crap. Like,
yeah. So now in your when you've been on the show before, that's something that you said is you did this to kind of fit in.
Yeah.
So that's, that was kind of like the door that you went through. And it wasn't like you had any like major trauma in your life or anything like that. Like a lot of people that use drugs or drink alcohol do.
Never around me, like growing up. Like, I've always been, grew up in a Christian home, Christian family, and never been around that stuff unless if we were like out in public and somebody was like smoking a cigarette or whatever.
So you started using it because you wanted to fit in, you wanted to be accepted by other kids and stuff. What was the point where you knew, or like, oh, this is kind of got a hold of me? Did you ever realize that? Or
I did realize that, and kind of goes into my like with what I was gonna say was that it is most definitely a gateway drug. Like, I remember in school they were just kind of like the DARE program. They're all saying like all drugs are bad, and weed was lumped in with that. And you try it, it's like you think that it's not that bad, and then you're like, they told me this was really bad for me, but it doesn't make me feel bad or doesn't cause that. But you just kind of start to think like, oh, that wasn't that bad, what else isn't that bad? So it just goes down the trail of trying different things. And I mean, that's just
So
even on the show Intervention, like
Yeah.
everybody that does an interview or like, hey, where did you start off with your addiction?
right.
Almost 90% of them say marijuana.
Yeah.
So like it is very much a gateway drug that just opens the doors to other things that are like definitely not good. That will,
So, and by gateway, it lowers your defenses, so you would do something that you wouldn't normally do.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely you think thoughts that you wouldn't normally think of. You're
Well,
thinking from a different
Mhm.
perspective. Like,
So, it's a mind altering substance.
Mhm.
Now, this, there's a lot of mind altering substances that you can go to a pharmacy and get, right?
yeah.
And
Mhm.
there's illegal drugs and legal drugs and
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff. And if you drink enough cough syrup, it'll alter your mind, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, what, like, after a while, the first time you use it, you didn't have a good feeling, but
Mhm.
after a while, it became part of your life.
Mhm.
So, and you said, before you eat, before you go out,
Yeah. Mhm.
you're using this. What it seemed like, and explain to me because I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, did you have to be buzzed all the time, or did you just like? It seems like you had to have that to live, almost.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely just, I don't know. It made me feel good, and yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like I had to be buzzed or
Mhm.
just feeling high everywhere I went. And that's just it's no way to live.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of serious like long-term like side effects from doing that too. That, um some people might say, oh, you're crazy or whatever, but I mean it's definitely like, I mean,
Well, especially when your brain is still developing, right?
Yeah,
Before you
yeah.
turn 25,
And
it can
I-
have an effect. Do you
yeah.
feel like you've been affected?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like I mean, I just turned 30 last month and I definitely smoked from 18 to with it. Like I had probably like a couple years
Mhm.
in between where I didn't, and then I kind of picked it back up again. Yeah, from pretty much 18 to 29,
Right.
I was smoking all the time, every day. And
Now, this seems like it would be pretty expensive.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
man, if you could have all that money back
Mhm.
now, that would be a lot of
I
money.
could use that money.
Yeah,
right now,
you could,
for
right?
sure.
Right. So, but were you working? It was almost like you were working
To
yeah.
fuel, yeah, I mean, all of my money was going to that, and whatever wasn't going into that was going to video games or just things that didn't matter per se, but it was
Yeah.
just like all fueling into like my happiness. It's what made me happy at the time.
Mhm.
Like, and going back to like the side effects of it, of at least long-term usage, is you get bad anxiety, paranoia.
Paranoia. Did you have that?
I mean, I had that real bad, like so much so to where I like felt like I was dying at times.
Yeah.
And
Well, for somebody that hasn't heard your story from the past, share some of those stories about that paranoia, because you would go to the ER.
Yeah. Like I would just get like this pain in my stomach, and it mainly like came from, so there's marijuana and then they have a concentrated form of that, and almost any time that I was doing the concentrated form of it, it would like kill my stomach. It felt like my stomach was gonna burst, and then I'm sitting there just out of my skull thinking I'm gonna die, and I'm hyperventilating. And I remember, I don't even know if I told you this, but one night I literally thought I was going to die, and I drove myself to the hospital.
Yeah, we talked about
and I slept in the parking lot overnight because I was just like,
Mhm.
I was too afraid to go in, but I was like, if something does happen, at least I'm here.
Right.
And then I just kind of slept it off, and then went home the next day. And yeah, I mean, the paranoia is a very real thing. And
so you told me, this is kind of a funny story, but you told me a story one time about how I don't know how often this happened.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
But you went out to get something to eat,
Yeah.
and then you drove away without it. Is that right? What happened?
So again, I had to do everything while I was high, right? I had to smoke before. I can't remember what I was doing. I think I had just gotten off work or something like that. I got home, I smoked, and then I was like, I'm kind of hungry, so I want to go to Taco Bell. And realizing this now, there's I live in the middle between 2 Taco Bells.
Right.
And I kind of went to the further one.
Right.
There's more lights and all that stuff. All I had to do with the other one was just get on the highway, and I was pretty much there.
Right.
But I went to the farther one, get to the Taco Bell, order my food, get to the window, hand her my card. She hands me my drink, and then I just drive off. I don't even like.
That's kind of funny.
No, it's funny to me too, because like that was probably a sign then that I should have stopped.
Right. Right. So you just drove off without getting your food.
I drove off without getting my food. I had my drink. I was all happy. I was like, oh man, I got some Taco Bell now. Like, and then once I get back home, I go to grab my food. I grab my drink, and I'm like, where's my food? Like, I don't have my food. And yeah, I realized I left my food at Taco Bell, and then the story's not over yet. Not over yet. So I'm thinking, like, what do I do? I can't go back there and show my face. Like, I totally drove off without my food.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to Steak and Shake in the direction of the other Taco Bell, and I order food there, and then I get to the window, and I don't have my card.
Because you left it.
Because I left it at the other Taco Bell. So now what should have been a 20-minute ordeal now turned into 45 minutes.
Right.
And I had to drive all the way back to the other Taco Bell, and then I asked them for their food, and I hope they didn't.
Yeah. Well,
mess with it, but
that's a funny story, and that's actually, with all the things that could have happened, that's harmless.
Yeah.
So let me put you on the spot and ask you this, because I know during the time this happened, during the time that you were using, but that accident you had a pretty bad accident.
Yeah.
So was that connected, do you think? Or
no, it definitely was. And I had smoked a little bit before. I was at work, and I was coincidentally enough, I was getting Taco Bell then too.
There's a connection. There's a Taco Bell connection.
Something is going on with Taco Bell, let me tell you. But I was grabbing food out of my bag when I was going around a bend, and I looked down for 2 seconds, and then next thing I know, I wrapped my car around a tree. I was safe. The car was done for, but
So that was, I remember, I immediately got the phone call.
Yeah.
I don't hear from you too much, but I get a phone call, and I actually beat the police there.
Yeah.
And it was kind of far away from where I was. I was at work, and I said, hey, I got to go. My son's been in an accident, and went down there, and I took you to the hospital.
Yeah.
Just so they would check up on you and everything.
See if I had any broken ribs.
Thank God.
No, yeah. I mean,
and I was praising God because that was a serious accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, Elijah knows lots of prayers went up, and they say hindsight is 20/20. You can look back and see God protecting you all these times. It's like, wow, amazing. So you kind of explained this, but what did it feel like? I guess, what did it feel like when you were off, or maybe you ran out? Like, did you just have to get some more, or what? I mean,
definitely I felt like my mood go down or whatever. Like I needed to get more, or like I would get irritable, or I mean that was kind of just like the best way to explain it, was just I felt like I wasn't myself unless if I was high.
Yeah.
And all those times before, like I thought seriously, like there would never be a time that I wouldn't ever smoke weed,
Mhm.
or just like, I don't know.
So how, knowing what you know about your family,
Mhm.
about me, what did you what were you thinking, maybe that this, I mean, maybe you thought, and we're just now talking about this for the first time,
Mhm.
maybe you thought my dad will never accept me, or you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, because you know how I feel about it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're kind of making a commitment, like, okay, this is what I want my life to be. I mean, what did
Mhm.
you have thoughts about that?
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of wanted to be my own person and do my own things,
Mhm.
and kind of be like in charge of my own life. And I didn't want to have to, like, I don't know, like answer to anybody. I just wanted to like solo cowboy it, like,
Mhm.
you know, um, and anytime I was around, like I was just kind of like not around for very long, and then I was just back to,
Right, right.
like,
Well, let me ask you this. How did you feel when you visited back home, or when you came back home?
yeah. It was good to see everybody, but I was just like looking for an escape route, or just, like I just wanted to get out of there because, I
Mhm.
don't know. I just
Well, it's really it's kind of crazy, because, and it was confusing for us, because we felt a lot of affection and love from you,
Mhm.
but we were just kind of like, how long is he going to stay?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to spend some time with him,
Mhm.
and this, I mean, obviously, we had rules and standards for a house and things like
Mhm.
that, and we were making decisions to live our life
Yeah.
a certain way, and you were making decisions to live your life a certain way, and neither one of us wanted to compromise. So, in a way, you could say that this came between our relationship,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did you realize that at the time, or did you think? I mean, um, I guess I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I mean, yeah, like I definitely didn't want to compromise. I know how you had felt about it, and um yeah, I was just like so stuck in my ways of just, I don't know. I was definitely like hurting, and
Hmm.
um just
Well,
kind of
yeah,
secluded myself, and then only came around every so often. And
right. And for anybody that knows your story or watched it in the past,
mhm.
um, when you were about 9 years old or so, your parents, your mom and I, got a divorce, and
Mhm.
that's something, I don't care who you are, that affects everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for an excuse, there's plenty out there. But that plays, those types of things play
Yeah.
into,
Mhm.
part of that. So, but overall, like I was saying earlier, there wasn't any like severe trauma or anything like
Yeah.
that, or
Yeah. Mhm.
everybody got along, pretty
Yeah.
good. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Um, like the most trauma was going to school and being around mean kids. And
Yeah.
then like, cause ever since I was a kid, I just wanted like a friend, or like somebody to hang out with that, I guess wasn't my parents or whatever, or,
Hmm.
like camaraderie, or call it what you will.
It's so
but-
true, because we would go into a store and he would, as a little kid, go find a kid even bigger than him and grab his hand and say, "Come play with me."
Yeah.
Come play. You know, I was always looking for somebody to play, you know,
Yeah.
to hang out with you and play with you.
Yeah.
And I saw you do that, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, I want to make sure that you kind of touch on things that you want to talk about.
Okay.
And so folks, for anybody that's just like tuning in now, I tonight am hanging out with my son, Elijah, and we're talking about the subject of marijuana, smoking weed. Does it have any place in the Christian life? And we're kind of talking about all the different side effects of it, and just the effects that it has on relationships, the effects that it has on finances, the effects it has on your mind, on your development. Like there's all kind of effects. Can you think of anything else that we're leaving out?
So it creates apathy. You just like kind of like the world's on fire and you don't really care if, you know, everything burns to the ground. You're just kind of like, super apathetic about everything.
You know, I want to back you up. Francis Schaeffer, in his book, How Should We Then Live? He talked about this. There was an ideology going around in the 60s that college kids believed that, hey, if everybody just smoked weed, everything would be okay. You know, and the problem in the world was that there were people that were not smoking weed. And if everybody just would do it, that would solve all the problems. So, Elijah, did you ever feel, or was this on your radar at all, like that it opened up spiritual doors?
For sure. I mean, I was very, very depressed. Like, not the whole time that I was smoking, but there towards the end, I was definitely, I mean, I was using other things other than just marijuana, but I mean, that was like my go-to, so that was pretty much what I was doing. But I definitely had just like thoughts of suicide, and just like, man, I don't care to be here anymore. And so yeah, I mean, it definitely has a spiritual thing. I mean, it's not normal to want to kill yourself,
right?
And so that alone is a spiritual attack. And so that was like one thing that I kind of just had, was just the like suicidal thoughts. But I mean, depression is depression. So like you're going to have all types of just negative thoughts, and that's like the worst one. But
did you ever have anything like, and I'm sure the audience might want to know, like any kind of sleep paralysis or anything like that?
Weirdly enough, I don't think I ever did. So one of the side effects of marijuana is that it doesn't allow you to dream. So honestly, for years, and I mean years, it felt like I just did not dream. So I felt like there was a lot of times like I didn't dream, or I do, but I'm just completely not remembering it.
Interesting. But I've heard that.
But I mean, I've had sleep paralysis before, but I mean, I'm talking when I was like young and not doing anything. So, but when you are not smoking anymore, your dreams are intense. I mean, like more intense than any kind of drug out there. Like you are seeing golden bears and like
when you take a break, or
when you just take a break, or even when you quit. Like you're like, when I first came home, I know I felt like I was telling you some of the dreams I was having, but they were just like insane. I mean, like, I don't even know how to explain
yeah,
it.
I
Dreams
don't
are
know
already
how that
crazy,
works. Yeah,
but
I don't know how
felt
that
like mine was
works.
dialed up to
Yeah.
20.
Maybe
So,
because you hadn't dreamed for such a
yeah.
long time, it
Mhm.
was more intense.
Yeah, or like
It
maybe
seemed more
some sort of
intense.
like brain chemical that doesn't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
released while you're sleeping, and
Right.
smoking suppresses that or whatever. I don't know, but
So yeah. Well, no, I think this is kind of cool because we're just having a conversation and you're just being really honest about
Mhm.
what you experienced
Mhm.
and what you were going through,
Mhm.
why you did it. Did you now towards the end, when was there a point where you thought, okay, you said at one time, like, there's never going to be a time where
Mhm.
I'm not smoking this. Did you feel like you were trapped, or did you feel like this is what I want to do?
Like smoking is
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
want to do. I mean, I just kind of like considered it like something that helps me be normal, or but there was just a lot of things that had happened to where I'm like, this just isn't normal. Like I shouldn't be like having negative thoughts when something that's supposed to be making me happy or whatever isn't doing it. You know what I mean? Like, and as soon as I stopped all that stuff, like I haven't had any kind of like depressive thoughts or anything like that. And really ever since I came home, like it's been,
Right.
I haven't had any issues with that. So, which I'm praise God, honestly, because depression is no joke.
Right,
Honestly,
right.
I mean, it is not fun, but I mean, that's also the best time
Right.
to like spiritual attack. Like you're just already getting kicked on the ground, and he's just
right
burying you.
Sure.
At that point. So
Yeah. So was there a time when something switched and you felt like, okay, I gotta get away from this?
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just had I moved away. Like I literally only had my car, and um I was moving somewhere where I just wasn't financially stable, and I was just trying to be around the party scene. And it was at that point where I was just like I didn't even feel like in control of my body. Like I was just like going with the flow on everything. And yeah, I had no business moving away from home. Like it was a bad idea, but I was just like so lost in the addiction.
Yeah. And you had moved away and I didn't even know that you had moved away.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how I tracked you down, but I tracked you down. Before this, there was a point where there was an open door to kind of come back here.
Yeah.
And I know that you didn't want to, and I kind of had an idea why you didn't want to. And it, of course it all makes sense now. But I know the independence played a part in that. And you're like, oh, dude, I don't want to go back home. I want to make it on my own.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, did you how can I explain this, or how can I put this? Because I know that there was a time that you were living here in 2020 and you were gone all day, and I assume that's what was going on.
Yeah.
You would take you go on the bike and
Yeah.
So and out of respect, you didn't do it here in the house.
Yeah.
And but basically this was such a part of your life that coming home wasn't an option.
Yeah. I just I mean, I know how you felt about it, and obviously you weren't gonna budge on it, and I was just like, me not seeing what was the big deal about it, like I wasn't doing heroin or anything like that,
Right,
what I mean? And but yeah, I didn't see an issue with it. And I mean,
And do you remember the time where I presented you with those side effects, that paper? And I got this paper. I actually got it from a website, Daily Wire, and it said the side effects of smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
And I read this and I'm like, oh my goodness, Elijah has every single one of these side effects.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe if I present this to him, this will kind of hit home with you.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, he has every one of these.
Yeah.
So I read it to you. It was actually in that room right back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, man, this is foolproof. How could he deny that this is really affecting him this much? I didn't get the reaction that I was hoping for. Do you remember that day?
Yeah. I was just kind of defending it, trying to write it off that it wasn't that big of a deal. But it is a big deal.
Right. I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. I was like, I don't know how more obvious it could have been. Like, I had just like line by line by line. I'm like, and you checked every one of the boxes. Yeah. And then you said, no, I don't. Yeah. It doesn't affect me. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really bad. Like, you're really mind controlled or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just under the spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything, I want to give you a chance just to kind of jump in here and share anything that you want to share. So guys, we're talking today just about Elijah and his experience smoking weed, and what it was like for him, and especially kind of running in rebellion against his his family and God. So let me ask you this, and I'm just curious, was there any, did smoking weed kind of help you with like conviction about where you knew you needed to be with God?
I feel like definitely towards the end, I was just like, I knew I needed something more, something that was going to bring me true happiness and true just peace, because that's something that I did not have at all. And, you're not going to find it in anything but Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit.
Right. So,
it definitely convicted me, and, I felt so just removed from like the family, society, and like, I like just felt secluded by myself. And, the last thing I was going to say was just like social anxiety. It just kind of completely just like tore me down. And I feel like even to this day that I just have like issues with like talking to people, or just like, I don't know, when I was younger, I was able to just like talk to anybody and everybody and just kind of like hold a conversation. And, well, but I don't know. Maybe it's not all that. I feel like cell phones and technology is really done that to a lot of people. Yeah. So,
and also there are effects of that that could take a couple years. Yeah. To kind of detox your system, right?
Yeah.
So, now there are states, and I'm kind of responding to a statement here in the chat, but as we're seeing, state by state, they're legalizing marijuana. Christians are going, well, if it's legal, it must be okay.
Yeah.
So what is your response to that?
So it came up for vote in Ohio, and I voted no for it.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that vote. And it was really strange having you here, and we were talking about voting no, voting against it.
So I don't know. It's a very, very touchy subject, because they're prescribing marijuana for certain illnesses now.
Right.
And obviously there's pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. And pharmaceuticals are, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them. They're definitely not good.
Most of them
are not.
Yeah. My take on it is they can be tools. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For people, there are so many side effects to so many drugs.
Yeah.
And
anything that's mind altering,
Yeah.
or I mean, like all the infomercials that they're coming out with on TV, like new one every week, like do not take, you get side effects of a big long list of whatever it may be, or whatever.
So I mean, you know, there's amazing science and medication that's helped a ton of people. And we would never tell anybody to not take medication or anything like that. We're not doctors. Consult your doctor, right?
Yeah.
So, but some of the over-the-counter stuff have worse side effects than smoking weed. But I feel as though there's something spiritual, dark spiritual about marijuana.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
And the more I'm watching you, the more I hate this stuff. Okay. And I listen to a lot of different music, and you know, I just could not, with a clear conscience, like listen to a song where somebody's talking about smoking weed. I can't think of an example right now. It might have been a Chris Stapleton song. You know? Okay. And I'm like, this is kind of a funny song. I'm never going to get high. You know, it comes on or whatever. But I can't, you know, because I know this has got a grip around my son's heart. And this was my prayer for years. Lord, break off the fingers of the devil, you know, and break this influence off of his life. We wanted you to come home, but not only that, we wanted you to get set free. And I mean, lots of prayers between all four of your parents, you know, went up for you and your siblings and other people, and friends of mine were praying for you. And when people would ask me, this is what they would ask me, is like, is there anything that I can pray for you about? My number one prayer for years was you. Okay. And I said, if you're going to say a prayer for me, say a prayer for my son, because that was my number one priority. And I have other kids too, but you, in my opinion, were in the danger zone the most. And anyway, I mentioned that because, praise God, he answered prayer. He got a hold of you, and it was a miracle. So I did get that phone call, and you know, and some of you guys have heard me tell the story. I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I didn't see anything with my eyes, but I believed God was moving. And there were a couple kind of, how should I say, times where I thought you were coming home, and I was trying to reason with you and trying to say, I think this is the best thing. And it just wasn't working out at that time. And I would go home and I'm like, Lord, it's in your hands. I was like, I'm not discouraged. I'm not discouraged. You have got this. And it was a few months later, you know, that we got the call. Now, when you came home, did you think you could quit, or did you think you would? What was in your mind on that ride?
Well, firstly, I don't know. Like, I lived with you in the past, and like you said, during COVID, like I was gone all day, or I would just go on the bike and ride and, you know, smoke on the bike trail or whatever. And I was just kind of still in the same way, but I'm older now, and I just was not going to let myself go down that path again. You know, I wanted to like come back home and do everything right this time. And, you know, I felt like I was not the greatest son growing up, with just, I don't know, all the dumb stuff I was doing. So, you know, I felt it was only right to do things right this time to honor you. You know what I mean? To at least, yeah.
So, well, and no, and that's really cool. And I could tell really quickly that it was different.
Mm-hmm.
And you had been here a week, and you told me, you said, "Dad, I've been home a week, and I'm so glad to be home.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be home." And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't think I would hear you say those words ever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you came home, you didn't use anymore. Okay. Where along that time, and I'm kind of sitting here and I don't know what's going to happen because you've come home a lot of times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you've several times, like you said, you quit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You tried to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just had felt like I didn't like need it anymore, but just kind of like fell back into it, and then just kind of got a hold of me again.
So, and I know, I would talk with you, your mom would talk with you, and we were trying to reason with you. So when you were home in July, like, do you remember the timeline or what happened to you? Like, because there was a major change over the months. Within a month, I brought you down to a conference with me, and I told kind of part of your testimony. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you knew what you were getting into, but I just kind of threw you out there.
Yeah.
Like, because I just wanted to show people, hey, God answered this prayer, and I could tell there was a difference in you.
Yeah.
So, like, can you explain from your point of view what happened?
I felt, I was just at the bottom of the barrel, I was at the very end of my rope, and, things were not getting better for me, and I was just going to be stuck in this same cycle, and I was going to be homeless, like it was just, there's going to be nothing good was coming out of it, being in that lifestyle mindset. Yeah, I can only imagine where I'd be if I didn't have you as a dad to be like, just always kind of, help me and just show the love and care you have for me. And,
so, well, you and I have always been close,
mm-hmm.
and that's what was kind of so hard to be so far. We were close, but we were far away, So, and it was, it was confusing, right?
Yeah.
But not only me, but you have a mom and a stepdad, and also a stepmom and other siblings. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to kind of I want to take our time. I want to talk about this. Okay. Now, one of the things that you did when you came home is you began reading a book that you got for your birthday. Now, this guy is not necessarily a Christian, but he wrote a book that has a lot of good advice in it. You want to tell me about the book?
So the book is called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard him, but if you haven't heard of him, definitely look up some of his videos on YouTube. They're trying to censor him on a lot of different things. Really awesome guy. But the book, I didn't know you were asking about the book.
That's okay.
I can't think of some of the chapters, but what, like, the very first chapter of the book was stand up straight with your head back, I think is what it is. Okay, so he's a psychiatrist, and he's met and dealt with like a lot of people, and he just kind of like wrote a book on what he thinks are like the most like just ways to like help yourself.
Yeah.
And like just kind of I don't know. Yeah. Like
So,
I suffer
yeah.
with depression really bad. And that first chapter was like just I felt like alone, just kind of like helped a lot.
It was
like,
speaking to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the story in the book is your sister and brother-in-law picked that out for your birthday.
Yeah. Like,
And I was
that
just
was
like,
that was
yeah,
6 months
right.
before I had even moved home.
And I thought, wow, he needs that book, but there's 1 in a million chance you were going to read it. Is what I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, hey, those are the odds that we got with God, right? That's all he needs, right?
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter if it's 1 in a million if you're the one.
Yeah.
So you read the book that you're
6 months later.
Yeah.
I mean, it was given to me, so they planted a seed.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that. And I definitely looked at it a few times. I'm like, man, I want to read this book. Like, I feel like I need to. And I'm actually glad I didn't when I would look at it, because I wouldn't have absorbed anything. I wouldn't have just, I don't know.
Right.
But I had it for when I got back home,
Mm-hmm.
and I started reading it, and it was just like, I don't know, kind of a huge, like, just boost.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, timing was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but definitely recommend the book. Definitely look into it.
We just missed Jordan Peterson. He was in Ohio last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a couple weeks ago or something. So, okay. So you read that book. You went to that conference with me. What's going through your head as you're living here? Because you and I are having conversations. We're talking about God.
Yeah.
And I'm witnessing to you and sharing with you and reading the Bible to you like I always do. But I'm also kind of I'm curious as, okay, is this safe to do? I don't want to push him away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what's happening with you?
I don't know. It was just like a complete 180 from doing what I was doing to coming home and just kind of like, I don't know, giving my brain a rest, for one thing, of just all the things I was putting into it. And it just kind of like allowed me to come back to earth and just, I don't know, realize that what I was doing was not good for me at all. And that I just ultimately needed Jesus to help me through that, because like, I don't know, I was putting all my chips on the table for something else when I should have been putting all my chips in on God. And it is amazing, because like I could have died in that car wreck.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different times that I could have, died, or just any kind of traumatic event. And I just want to give all glory to him, honestly. Like he's definitely the one that's kept me safe and alive over the years. And I don't know. I also want to thank you for just always kind of like help giving me that moral compass of like what's like good and evil and all that stuff. And
well, it's interesting, because even though you were surrounded by people that were just not the greatest, okay, you still maintain some core beliefs. About things like abortion.
Yeah.
And other biblical things, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. So why do you think you kind of held on to that stuff? I mean, you were breaking lots of God's rules, but
like holding on to some of the friends.
Yeah, some of the truth. No.
Oh, just
like some of the truth that you just kept in your heart.
Well, just because I knew it was, it's, abortion is wrong. Like,
Right,
there's
right.
no way, if and or buts, to say otherwise. Like,
Yeah.
it's taking a human life, and I just feel like that's a no-brainer to,
Yeah. Well,
thou shalt not murder.
right.
And that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't gonna. I know, like, to other people, it's not the most popular opinion or whatever, but I kind of, like, I don't know if it was ever being talked about or anything like that. I wouldn't join in on their side, but I would just kind of like, they aren't gonna like what I have to say. Like, I'll be the oddball out, so I would just kind of like, cut my mouth
But you
shut.
did get into conversations with people,
like,
and people did not like you because of your pro-life stance. So, and we're looking, kind of through here. What did this say? Let's answer this question right now. And it's Kay Best. She says, "Thank you for being honest and candid, Elijah. How best can we pray for children using weed?" So there are people that are going to listen to this, okay, that are in the same situation that I'm in. How could they pray? What's your answer?
Just for safety, and I mean, God knows what he has to do, and it's all in his plan. And I know one thing I know that always helped me is just, like, every time I was around you, like, I just could always feel like so much love and support, no matter what. I mean, although you didn't support me with what I was doing,
right,
but you just showed love and care, and
no judgment,
because I don't know. I mean, I felt like there was sometimes to where, like, things were said or whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be around my dad right now because he's not okay with me doing whatever. And I don't know, but at the same time, like, you almost want to say some things just to, like, wake them up, because you don't know what could happen.
And there were some times where I was at a point where I was like, I don't really have anything to lose because you were so far away. So I didn't know if I didn't think there was anything I could do to make it worse. And I was like, I think I got to take a chance of trying to throw him a lifeline.
So just kind of like a side note, because it kind of ties into that, I was watching a show called My Lover, My Killer earlier, and it's just about, like, couples who something is wrong.
It's a TV
show. It's on Netflix if anybody's interested in. It's kind of like a crime, true crime TV show. But there's a couple. They were splitting up. The one guy was in military, and the guy wasn't too happy about them breaking up, and he starts stalking her to the point to where, like, her family notices and all that stuff. Long story short, he ends up killing her because he's just lost his mind. And you see points of, like, the parents saying, like, oh, we just wish that we would have actually done something about it, instead of, like, kind of just like, if he's stalking you, he'll eventually stop or whatever. And that's just, I don't know. But they wish that they would have said something sooner or whatever. I mean, that's kind of like an extreme example, but
well, and I thought those things, and I never knew, like, if something would happen, right? So
and I'm glad you did, like, say those things, because, like, it definitely planted a seed, and, like, in my brain, like, okay, I really shouldn't be doing this as much as I love doing it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely just like was not worth it.
So Elijah, you came home and you were here for months, and we got to do things, man. We got to do things that we've never gotten to do, which is really cool. All praise to God. You came to, I mean, so you went to 3 conferences with me, I think. We got to go to Georgia together. We got to go to New York City together. And then just a couple months ago, we went on what we call a REAP trip to Texas. So anyway, all praise to God. We're making up for lost time, which is super cool, right? But so when did God come into the picture after you got home? Like, was it immediately, or did it take time, or what was going on?
It was, I don't know. It just, everything felt right about moving home. And then, you know, I feel like at the conference is when the Dayton one is when it really just kind of like hit home, and like, you know, I really need to go all in on this and make this a priority. And so I mean, I would definitely say that, because like
that was a turning point.
Yeah. I don't know, my whole adult life I was doing the absolute wrong thing, and now that I'm on the other side of this, like, I don't know, I just don't want to ever go back to that again, you know. Like, I don't want to feel that depression. I don't want to, you know, feel like depend on a substance or anything like that. So, and I know God gives healing on all of the things. So,
so I remember when you were a kid, maybe around 9 or 10 years old, and you went off to church camp. I remember you coming back from church camp, and I was not doing so great at the time. And you told me sincerely, you said, "Dad, I want to get closer to God." And I was like, "Oh, shoot." Because I knew, like, I was not being a good dad. You know, I was struggling. And I was single, and I was just a mess. And I just kind of shook it off, you know what I'm saying, and moved on. I'm like, okay, I got to do better, you know? And that just kind of stuck with me, you know? And all that time went by, you know, almost 20 years, you know, from the time you're 10 to the time you're 30, okay, to the time you're 29. And what did it feel like to talk to Jesus again, or to pray, or like, tell me how that happened, or what it was like?
I don't know. It's a really good feeling, honestly. Just like, kind of like, I don't know. He definitely protected me over all those years, and there's,
I mean,
well,
I mean, what are your prayers like, or what are, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like they've all been just kind of like for the people that I used to hang out with, and like, I want them to be okay. You know, I want them to be reached in some way.
Right.
And I don't know, like, addiction is a real thing, and I feel for people that are just kind of like slaves to it, because I mean, I was definitely one of them. And
so, you know, you had a younger brother. You have a younger brother who lives here, and you guys have a big age gap, but he looked up to you and loved you, and I would have to explain to him sometimes what was going on, you know. And one of the ways that I kind of explained it, I said it's kind of like Elijah is in a jail cell, and the door's open, you know, and he's in there on his own. Does that make sense? Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah. I'm in a jail cell with my back turned to the door, you know, not knowing that the door's wide open, or you know, or my prison sentence is up, but nobody, you know,
So what kind of things have you done to grow spiritually, and how have you grown spiritually in the last year?
I have been reading my Bible a lot more. I just read through the book of Luke here recently, and I'm on Ezekiel now. I don't know. It's definitely grown exponentially from when I wasn't just like making it a priority or anything like that. Although I don't know, just understanding like real truth, and like, you know, we are in dark times right now, and it's not looking so good for the world, and everybody needs as much Jesus as possible. So like that's definitely been like one fuel for me, is just like, you know, I you know, I feel like I've wasted so much time giving pleasure to my skin rather than trying to, you know, do the right thing, or, you know, have a relationship with God. And I don't know. Yeah, I've just
I want to ask you this, and I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but and maybe we come back here. I want to make sure you get a chance to say everything that you want to say. But you had a friend that you used to hang out with, who had a traumatic brain injury. Okay. And he's still your friend. But something I remember when you told me about this. Okay. And when you came home, you said that was one of the things you needed to do. You needed to go see him. And your friend Matt is he has a traumatic brain injury. I don't know how to describe his condition. He's conscious, he's there, but he doesn't have a lot of mobility. Okay. So I got to be with you when we went up to see him. And this guy, he's a few years older than you, but you guys used to hang out. You used to work together, and do whatever together. The things that we're talking about right today. And Matt, man, he has such an amazing testimony. But that story, you know, is for another time. We can share about him. But he had been asking about you and praying for you.
Okay. Even in his condition, he had been doing that. So
you and I went up to see him. I mean, you tell whatever you want.
It's a very, I don't know. So I've known Matt since I was 18, and I worked with him when I was working the fairs, and then during COVID, I had a chance to work with him in the food trailer, and so I don't know, he is a Christian, but he just struggled with depression.
He was struggling with depression, right?
He was kind of like, I don't know, he was kind of on the other side, like he still drank sometimes, and he didn't really smoke weed,
Mhm.
but yeah, he was diagnosed with like bipolar, and yeah, struggled with severe depression, and he would kind of lock himself away for like months on end, and I wouldn't hear from him really, and which I totally understand how that is, because I was doing the same thing but just not as severely as he was. But there was times where we did drugs together, and I don't feel like it helped his situation at all, and I definitely like don't think I was helping his situation at all. But after like the COVID season was over, like I don't know, when things were starting to open up, or like the weather was starting to get bad to where we couldn't be out on the like selling food, we just kind of like didn't have a falling out, but like he just
Went your separate ways.
Went our separate ways. And he's always been kind of like a secluded person, anyways, and he lives like an hour away. But I was at a concert when I found out. Somebody had texted me. They were like, "Hey, have you heard about Matt?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't heard anything. Like, what's going on?" And he told me there was a bad accident, and he had fallen down a flight of stairs and hit his head, and he was like laying there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before anybody realized he was down there, and suffered traumatic brain injury, and he got life flighted to I'm not sure if it was Cleveland, probably Cleveland. But yeah, he.
So that was inspiring to go and see him, and to know, and then to see his face light up when you started playing music. And man, I mean, let me just say this real quick. Say a prayer for Matt, Elijah's friend. We 100% believe that God can heal this brain injury and reconnect whatever's broken. God created Matt the first time. He can do it again. Okay. And he can heal. So anyway, I want to mention that, guys. We want to share more and talk more about Matt sometime. And
I'm just pulling up a picture really quick.
So yeah, and you can, if I can show that up there, maybe. I don't know how well it can be seen. So, but yeah, that's his
good friend Matt.
Yeah. And he had been asking about you and praying for you, and
I was just kind of like on the run. And I don't know, I was terrified to see him, because part of me blamed myself, and I don't know, we hadn't like talked for a few months, so I know like drugs weren't involved at all, but he's always had just like severe like just depression issues.
So we don't know what if
he fell, or if it was something that he had done to himself. But I like during my whole time that I was,
you couldn't go see him.
I couldn't go see him, but he had also been praying for me and trying to get a hold of me through his sister, and I like, it was just kind of like powerful that he had been praying for me and just kind of like pulling for me,
right?
And Yeah.
So yeah, pray for Matt. Elijah, so I don't know. I've been amazed as I'm watching you grow over this last however many months. It's been like, what are we, 9 months or something like that? In a few months, it'll be a year. What are your goals going forward? Like, what do you want to do?
I definitely want to get just as strong as possible. I just want to continue reading the word, and you know, I want him to, I don't know, just show me his will for me, like just direction to go. I would love to help other people that have struggled or struggling with things that I've went through, but I just got to be able to feed myself and get to that point to where I can do that. Yeah, I just want to get as strong as possible and read or take as many courses or whatever as possible.
Right. Well, so, one of the things you did is you took one of Russ's courses, right?
Yeah.
So, well, no, that's amazing. And we just, we kind of, this kind of got into kind of like a personal thing. That's okay. We started out with the idea of Christians and marijuana. I like what my friend Russ says. It says you never see anybody filled with the Spirit of God that will choose to use weed.
Yeah.
Okay. God wants to be our drug.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't like saying that because I don't want to cheapen God to a drug, but drugs become gods.
Yeah.
Okay. And people will turn to drugs to get that buzz, to get that coping. It's what they use to get through life. And God wants you to use him to cope with life.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and when we put anything in his place, that's idolatry. So, in a way, it is kind of like worship when we're allowing something else to do what God is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Anything else that's on your heart, Elijah, that you want to share, that's on your mind, just about any of the things that we talked about?
I mean, I don't know. Just kind of hit everything, like just from the side effects to it being a gateway drug, and yeah, I mean, I think I hit everything.
So, folks, I just want to encourage anybody out there listening. I mean, this was a show. We talked a lot about the effects of marijuana, but what the show was really about was don't give up on your kids. Don't give up on your prodigals. Don't give up on that thing that you're praying for. God answers prayer, and you may not be able to see God working. I just, all I can say is all praise to God. Thank God for everything that he's done. And we just held on to hope that he was going to get a hold of your heart. And we're so glad that he did. And I feel like a broken record. I'm repeating some things, but I've just been so blessed. So many blessings in my life that have happened, and one of those blessings happened like 3 weeks ago. If anybody knows us closely, you know what that is. But just all the amazing things God is doing. I want to praise him, And I just want to acknowledge him as creator, provider, savior, healer, deliverer. Don't give up. Pray persistently. Persistent praying never quits. It never grows tired. It never grows weary. And for me, this is what I tell people. I just kept pushing Elijah's name before God. And I said, Lord, remember Elijah today. And I just wanted to be the most annoying person on earth and just kept saying, Elijah. I wanted to keep pushing him to the front.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way God teaches us to pray. If you remember the parable about the woman, okay, who was dealing with the evil judge. I forget exactly how the parable goes, but past midnight, folks, on the East Coast. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for the prayers. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everything that you guys do. I wish I could tell you about the meeting that I had earlier today, the ministry that took place, the ministry that's happening. You guys make it happen. And you guys open the door. This is something that nobody knew about, that I was dealing with for a long time, the whole time I've been doing this show. And I'm so happy now that we can talk about it as a testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So any last words, Elijah, before we sign off? What'd you lose? Your note or your Bible? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
1 second here.
Okay. He's looking it up, folks. So anyway, again, if you're tuning in late, we just kind of did a show tonight talking about the effects of marijuana and what it does to you, what it's like to live where you're dependent on it. Okay. I've been talking to my son, Elijah, who last July came home, and he was on the run for a long, long time. And we didn't know if he would ever come home. So, and he did. And it's a miracle. It is a miracle. So I've been talking for years to so many parents and grandparents of prodigals. And we've been praying together, and they'll share with me their story, and I'll pray for their kids, and they pray for Elijah, my kids, and it's it's just amazing. So I know we're not alone, and I've had many prayer meetings and talks with again, parents of prodigals. I didn't know that I was going to have this testimony. I didn't know that when it was going to happen. I believed it would happen someday, but man, what the timing for him to come home, and for the news that we got, and for the things that had happened, just and for just all of the things that that God did since he's been home. So anyway, guys, don't give up. Somebody asked earlier, how do we pray for our kids if they're if they're on drugs? Just don't give up. Pray all kinds of prayers. Pray that God would cause them to just lose the desire, that the drug wouldn't have any effect, that God would just haunt them with his love, is what I tell people. So go ahead.
Just a verse I want to share. This is one that's been I don't know, has really helped. Been kind of encouraging. But it's Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Yeah. I love that verse. And
I love it too.
It was highlighted there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the one you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that's highlighted is because that's out of one of Russ's teachings.
Mm-hmm.
So when I highlighted a long time ago. So guys, again, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And again, when you share this show, when you give us a thumbs up, when you subscribe, that helps us spread the word. So God bless everybody, and we will see you next time. All right, bye.